G'day, and welcome to the Patently Strategic Podcast, where we discuss all things at the intersection of business, technology, and patents. This podcast is a monthly discussion amongst experts in the field of patenting. It is for inventors, founders, and IP professionals alike, established or aspiring. And in this month's episode, we're changing up the format a bit and we'll be sharing a great sit-down with three very innovative, up-and-coming inventors, as we also launch the next installment of our Rise Award. To set the table for this conversation, we're going to travel way back in time to early 2020. It's the height of the pandemic, and like everyone else, we're desperately trying to 1, make sense of all of it, and 2, figure out what we could possibly do to help. The stock market was tanking, and private capital tends to have a strongly correlated long tail. A lot of the companies in the space we work with are pre-revenue, so this sounded like a good place to focus. All the VCs we were talking to were saying the same thing. Extend the runway, extend the runway. Well, how exactly do you do that? You focus efforts, make cuts, etc., but it's impossible to pull resources and money out of thin air.
Or is it? And that's when we got the idea to do Rise. In a time of fighting for survival, we knew that many companies would risk their IP strategy, but we strongly felt that weathering this crisis should not come at the loss of hard-fought R&D efforts. So we came up with the Relief for Innovative Startup Endurance, or RISE Award, to help a selected startup extend their runway by helping them freely secure a provisional patent. The response was overwhelming. The stories broke our hearts, and the tales of perseverance inspired us, so much so that we decided that the original plan for a single award wasn't enough under the circumstances and ended up extending awards to 4 recipients in 2020.
Given how incredibly rewarding the entire experience was, and given the problems that still plagued our world even a year later, we decided to bring Rise back in 2021. Going forward this year and beyond, we intend for this to be an annual fixture. We love helping entrepreneurs. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning. However, out of a strong desire to look forward beyond this pandemic, we're rebranding Rise as the Recognition for Innovative Startup Excellence Award. Okay, so back to present day. We've been kicking around the idea of incorporating inventor stories into a new occasional episode format, so the timing really seems perfect to bring these two worlds together. Today, we are sitting down and chatting with some of our favorite inventors, all past recipients of the Rise Award. 3 really great companies made up of wonderful humans, all looking to make a big difference. And be sure to stick around after the interviews for details on how to apply for this year's Rise Award. So without further ado, let's meet our guests.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. And so to kind of do this commemorative, this is the first Rise, kind of history podcast. And so I'd love for you all to tell a little bit about your companies, yourselves, and your invention, and kind of what led you to focus on the problem that you did.
Certainly. I can start off and maybe we can just popcorn it around.
Sounds great.
All right. So hi there, everyone. My name is Brendan Wong. I first started vaping when I was in high school, and I struggled with my addiction for over 5 years. And as a teenager, it was really frustrating to me that there weren't so many options available to help address the behavioral addiction component. So as a sophomore in college at Michigan State University, I've invented the Captain's Zero. It is a flavored pressurized air inhaler that works like so. Used as a behavioral inhaler, it's just flavored pressurized air. And we've already been helping thousands of people across the world quit vaping and quit smoking. So it's been a highly rewarding process. And currently I am now finishing my final semester here at Michigan State University with a degree in supply chain management. That said, I may pass it off to Teresa.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. That's actually a really cool story. My name is Teresa Smith. My company is called Ola Filter. So we're a social business and we have headquarters in Guatemala. Our product is called the Ola Filter. It's a compact and affordable household water filter designed for consumers in developing countries. So we're a startup. We're about a month away from entering the market. About a year and a half ago, we just saw a strong opportunity to do something meaningful. So the tap water in Latin America isn't safe to drink. And yet there's surprisingly few filtration options available in stores there, especially at a low enough price point to be affordable for the average family. So my business partner was working in Guatemala for an NGO, donating bucket filters to people who had taps. She was chafing against that inefficiency of not using the existing infrastructure and struggling to teach and explain the complexity of using that bucket filter. For us, the solution was obvious. design a filter for these households, make it in country, sell it directly to this huge and overlooked market. We realized that we could build like a sustainable business while creating access to a product that would make a really positive impact on people's daily lives.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Teresa. Yeah, it's really lots of cool products. I love it. All right, Keith, what's the good word?
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm Keith Phillips, founder and CEO of Real Lingua. So my background is foreign language teaching. I taught French and Spanish for 20 plus years at the college level. Full time, it was tenure track, and it was great. I loved it. But I heard enough over and over again from my students that there was this gap. What we're learning doesn't seem to be how people actually use the language. Native speakers use the language when I'm out there trying to communicate or listen, or speak to them. And so I was, as all entrepreneurs, you kind of get to a point where it's like you're both tired of hearing that, but also really energized by the possibility of doing something about it. And so I reached that point back in about 2016, and took an early self-designed retirement to launch Real Lingua. And so we're a team now of about 6. So yeah, definitely 6. And
I do that sometimes.
So, essentially the crux of it is that all language tends to be, when we're talking about using it with other humans, tends to be conversational. Especially speaking, right? So we've got, we're more than halfway to meeting people's needs in that way with our current product. Learners can listen to native speaker conversations, they can interact with them, they can do activities that help them progress in their language learning. The piece that we're really excited about, that we're still working on, but still really excited about, is a conversational AI for language learning. Basically, your mom, the best language teacher you ever had, and your best friend all wrapped into one to help you learn that language you want to learn. So, yeah, thanks. Great
I love it. I feel like we could, help a lot of people with, the clean water for them to grow and then learn lots of languages and make healthy choices. So, and all in one package.
Keith, I was just going to add, Keith, I might have told you this before when we were going through kind of the application process, but what you're working on really resonated with me, because I will never forget. I took a couple of years of Spanish in high school, and I remember the first time that I encountered a native Spanish speaker after taking 2 years of Spanish, and I could not translate a single sentence, and that was kind of heartbreaking. I was like, I could write very fluently. I could read exceptionally well. But the first time I had an opportunity for a real conversation, it just completely fell flat on my face. And so, yeah, it's a huge disconnect.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, you're. I know, Josh. I can say that you are special in many, many ways, but not in that way. So you are. So many other people, and I mean, you're talking like billions of other people on the planet, and because no one really needs to go to Paris, France, and recite a list of fruit when they get off the plane, right? Or in the hotel room. I mean, you know what a hotel room is. You know what fruit is. You can buy it without even speaking to anyone. But it would be nice to, in the cashier, when the cashier says, "Hey, how's it going?" to strike up a little conversation, and for them to know what you're doing. They can tell you're American by looking 5 different ways, right? If they're looking at me, right? But the art of knowing what to say and kind of how to say it, regardless of accent or regardless of how fast you say it, there's something to that. Yeah. So no, totally resonate.
But piggyback on that also. I mean, I took 4 years in high school and then 2 more years in college of Spanish, and never have I been conversational. And now I'm starting a company in Guatemala. And luckily my business partner is fluent, but my Spanish is strictly book. And so I definitely need some help with my conversation.
So you need to spend some time in a tropical paradise called Guatemala.
Immersion. Yeah.
Immersion.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So I think y'all kind of hit on some of the biggest challenges. But I guess, the challenges that you're all the solution that you have for those challenges, but from like a company, obviously you all were kind of springing up during the COVID era. And so, did that present challenges? Were there other challenges that you have as a company faced, or you as an individual in the company? Kind of just speak, I guess, to that bigger idea.
I'll go first this time. It's Teresa. So as far as what our challenges were, honestly, all of it, this is a brand new process for us. We started this business a year and a half ago, and we had to learn everything: the planning, the pitching, the hiring, the marketing, the website design, the manufacturing, the IP, all the things that anyone else has to learn when they're starting a business. But then also the added difficulties of setting up in a foreign country, a developing country, and making a product for low-income consumers. So we had just a ton of mentoring, and we made a lot of pivots to get to where we are now. But with COVID specifically, on the whole, we've benefited from the changes from the pandemic. I mean, the rise of virtual meets that came out of the pandemic made it easier for us to navigate meetings and pitches with people across the country. When we started, we were 3 people, me in Michigan, one on the West Coast, and one in Guatemala. And we worked with each other entirely virtually. We haven't actually met in person yet, although that's changing soon. It's changing soon. It is. It's insane. It's insane. But I'm going to Guatemala in a couple of weeks. So finally we'll meet. But yeah, we've gone a year and a half and been able to do everything so far virtually. That's
fantastic. Yeah, I think that just illustrates, Keith's phrase here that you're probably not unique in that regard either, in the sense of having tons of pivots, having to learn so many things, but where maybe the virtual economy kind of helped in the sense of, just being able, nobody was afraid of it at that point because everybody kind of had to do it.
But that was a clear, very localized risk, though, that, you're setting up a business that is very much tied to a geography that you can't access if you wanted to. Certainly benefits from being able to work with a team in a distributed fashion, but was there any like on the ground work that you had to do, and how did you navigate that?
Well, in the beginning, the on the ground work we had to do was related to like market research, and so one of our founders was in Guatemala at the time, and so she was handling that, like taking our prototypes to people, having them try them out and getting some feedback. Later, our current CEO moved down. She moved down there in September, and she was pivotal to like get our manufacturing started, because that was not something we could do remotely, because the culture down there is not like we can talk over the phone and get things taken care of. There's a lot of in-person required in Latin American business dealings. And so she's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on that side. And then, I've been able to support a lot from up here, but we definitely would never have been able to like do the whole company if all of us were in the United States.
Right. Keith, did you want to bring up the middle?
Yeah, I can weigh in. So, talking about doing business in person, I think, our target is higher ed and academia. I think there just is enough of that kind of culture of in-person closing a deal in higher ed and academia. And we just were not able to, obviously take advantage of that. I'm just starting to be able to get back into kind of a cadence with that kind of thing. But so that, that was a challenge for sure. But, all things considered.
Brendan, did you want to speak to some of your bigger challenges? And, where do you manufacture, Brendan? Has that been a part of it? I was trying to remember where.
Sure. I can share. We've had a whole load of challenges up from the very beginning. I mean, once upon a time ago in 2019, vaping was declared an epidemic. Started to see people dying from all ages, from teens to young adults to older adults. And when I first set out, I certainly faced a number of people who thought that I'm creating something that's too simple to work, and that trying to convey that early on. Remind you, the Captain Zero is literally just a unit with a silicone valve that pops open and pressurizes air, coupled with natural extracts in our caps to provide flavoring. So from there, getting to the R&D stage took me 2 years of product development. I mean, with the Rise Award early on, I was able to then say, hey, like we have something that's definitely unique and we can build off of it. So with manufacturing, I was lucky and I had found my manufacturer while we exhibited at CES 2020 in Las Vegas.
Oh.
Yeah, so we were sponsored by MSU to go, and we've had a Shark Tank recruiter ask us to apply for the show. We've had people from all over the world say how much this means, especially when smoking is one of the deadliest addictions in the world. So here I was, 20 years old, and now I'm building a team. I brought on my co-founder Jake. I brought on our third team member Alec, who's yet to join us at a full-time capacity coming up soon here. But once we've been able to spend those 2 years to really make sure we had the right product, once we launched, we've been growing too fast to handle. And at times it's like seeing the amount of organic growth and direct success that we've been having with reaching our customers has been a highly rewarding journey, but not without its difficulties. During this time, my co-founder Jake had left to join a full-time job in real estate out in Las Vegas. We're starting our fundraising. We're starting to look for new hires. And of course, now we're dealing with having to have the next production ready. So it's certainly been a very exciting journey. And I'm really grateful for all the moments along the way because I've been able to learn a tremendous amount from these challenges and hardships that help shape who I am today.
Oh, that's awesome. That does sum up, I think, really nicely the trajectory of a startup or a small company, right? Is just tons of hurdles, tons of obstacles, tons of, but also this huge growth experience and this huge reward experience of, being able to impact whatever segment of the market that you're hoping to impact.
I have a tangential question, and maybe it's not tangential. Did I read on your socials that you actually re-addicted yourself so you could prove that it worked? Is that true, or is that an urban legend?
Very much true. So throughout the process, we've constantly found people without biases, right? These are people whom I do not have any connection to saying, hey, will you try out one of our prototypes? And I've heard an overwhelming positive response. People are going weeks without relapsing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, how easy is it? Like, how is this actually impacting someone's ability to quit one of the most difficult things to quit? Right. So I wanted to be back in those shoes, and I wanted to know for sure that if I myself can have those same cravings and be at the point where I'm literally like I need to take that next hit, can I use my own invention, the Capno Zero, to help mitigate those oral fixations and cravings? To which I've discovered, yes, it does. And so this is it. Going to the market, it's ready, and now we're seeing thousands of people from all across the world who are ordering the Capno Zero. We're like barely advertising it. People are just looking us up, and it's so exciting to hear of all the success stories through that.
That's really cool. And I think that that's fun to kind of put that proof in the pudding for everybody, because it is. I think vaping was one of those really kind of under the radar things where everybody thought that it was the solution to cigarette smoke. And then turns out that, it's not much better. And so I think it's one of those kind of insidious things where it was marketed as this, silver bullet, just vape, and it's no big deal. And it's like, well, actually it's not good, and it's not really much better. And so it's cool to see it being tackled.
Something completely tangential. Brendan mentioned, his co-founder leaving to go go take a full-time job. And I've always thought, because we've had people, come and go from Real Lingua, and I'm going to take a full-time job. And I've always thought, okay, well, good for you, because this is like way more than a full-time job. It's like like stepping. You can have lots of free time.
Take it easy, that full-time gig, huh?
It's just a silly thought in my head, but I mean, and totally get why, the myriad of reasons why people do it, but. I mean, it's a lot.
Not for the faint of heart.
No.
But for those, it's for the zealots and the passionate and the driven, and yep. Not to say those other people aren't those things, but just you have to have that certain good cocktail of all those pieces.
But also take it from somebody who spent a couple decades in the corporate world. after they go take that regular gig, they're going to spend all their time thinking about how they can, get together with a couple colleagues and bust out and go start their own thing. So
they'll be back.
They'll be back.
Yes, I'm confident Jake is he's doing what he can right now to learn the technical skills within corporate, and then someday he'll do great things starting his own ventures. I'm sure of it.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So the next one, if I don't lose my voice in the process of asking it, is just why is patenting important to you in your innovation, and how did the Rise Award specifically help you out? And hopefully it did.
We don't want to hear it if it didn't. I'm kidding.
I can jump in first. So, I think for us, for Real Lingua, patenting was important because we recognize, obviously after recognizing the gap and, some of the pain points and the problem areas, we recognize that there actually is, a patentable process in language learning that at least at that time we thought, okay, we can capture this. We can get this down, and then this is what we're going to use to as the platform and build the product and deliver everything. The Rise Award really helped us to get tighter on our original patent, which was our system and method, which anyway, so Ashley and her team.
Yeah. Keith was in that, the beautiful world of software, which as many of you may know, that is not easy for patenting. And so we really tried to bolster up various aspects of the patent to kind of make it more, sustainable against those Section 101 challenges. So yeah, it was good. It's good stuff. Teresa, do you want to hop in there?
Sure. So the Rise Award for us allowed us to get our disclosures filed before we got our first funding. And actually, in order to get that first funding, we wanted to have that disclosure out there and protected before we started pitching. But filing the provisional first gave us time to solidify our designs over this last year to make sure that our international patent filing, which we're working on right now, we just started this week, has all the details of our final design. Because, we didn't invent the filtration. There is innovation in the design of our product that makes it easier to use and more adaptable than some of our competitors. And having those disclosures protected gives us confidence as we're bringing it to market. And we hope will create value for our company down the road as we look towards acquisition.
That's awesome. And I think, Brendan and Teresa, yours, and, I think I love your applications in the sense that it really shows the evolution of the products too, especially as we're kind of working on yours now, Teresa, because Brendan's a little bit further in the process, but kind of this evolution of, which is really good from a patent perspective, because you see you have all these other iterations that you can now protect in theory, or maybe provide value to some sort of licensee or acquire down the road, where you have hopefully your commercial one in there, but then a whole bunch of, of the Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever that you've gone through in that process. So both your applications, I think, are really, really tell that story. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely been, when asked a question of, what has this award meant to me? I mean, when I was looking on Google, I searched up products to help myself quit. They didn't exist. So I was like, oh, well, I mean, this is going to be the first of its kind. So with that in mind, I knew to myself, this has to be patented. I mean, it's one thing to just produce it out there. It's another thing to really take ownership of the design and the functionality. And through the Rise Award, it allowed me to learn with a lens from the patent world, really in depth as far as what goes into it. I mean, I was quite flabbergasted when I got those 30 pages of specifications. I'm like, how does anyone write this much about something? How is that possible? Just absolutely stunned, too stunned to speak. Instead, I was reviewing it all. But it's been, it's allowed me to then also be able to communicate our key differences outward. It's been able to provide me a way in which I can share, okay, well, here's exactly how we're protecting it from a functional standpoint and how we could potentially license the technology, but also from a business standpoint, why it's important to dominate the market with market saturation early on.
Mm-hmm.
So as we've grown and developed, it's come to the point where we graduate from the provisional into a non-provisional. So at that point, I was like, well, I know whose door I'm coming to knock on. And I said, hey, actually, let's hop back on the phone. Let's get this utility going. And, I'm so excited that we're now past the process of having the first examination. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things go through smoothly.
Yeah, it's looking good. So we did an examiner interview. So hopefully that will put us in the good camp.
So I guess kind of building on that question, because I think almost everybody, but maybe Keith was like pretty new to the patenting process. I think, but in any case, what's the biggest piece of advice that you'd give to inventors new to patenting?
I originally worked for Toyota for 20 years, and so like the idea of making a patent, I was very familiar with because a lot of my coworkers got them, and we were encouraged to apply for one, but I personally never had. So this was actually a brand new experience for me. But I am very much in like the do-it-yourself mentality. So I got, the book.
You were
patent it yourself.
You were super prepared. So just full disclosure, Teresa actually, one of the Rise Awards that we did with her was, or with Ola Filter, was a different scope, and so. But so basically Teresa presented this like pretty amazing, like provisional packet where, I just like worked with her to fine tune it and tweak it and do claims and everything, but you go ahead and you definitely did your homework.
Yeah. I checked out, what is it? The YOLO book, I think it is. It's like the book for teaching yourself how to write a patent. Read the whole thing cover to cover and then marked it and then wrote my own patent. And then, but still I was baffled by like the process, and I knew that it was really easy to do it wrong. And so I had zero intention of ever filing it on my own. So I was really happy to find somebody, because even if it wasn't, to write the whole thing from zero, I needed like a professional to make sure that it was getting filed correctly and everything was going all right. And even now, that we're starting on the real filing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm updating it to everything that we've done this year, and I'll hand it over to you guys with most of it probably done, but it's still going to need like all of your touches, and it'll still be worth having professionals do it. I definitely so I guess my recommendation would be, I think there's a good cost-effective way to do it, and it's not impossible to write, especially if like I'm an engineer, so like writing technically comes naturally to me. So it wasn't like a big step outside of my comfort zone to write for a patent. So if you have that similar background, don't be afraid to tackle the beginning at least on your own. But then hand it over to some professionals.
That's awesome.
That's certainly impressive, being able to read through and really start it. I'm sure Ashley was quite impressed. Like, oh wow, look at this! Someone's new to the game, but also really
my job easier.
Certainly. For someone like me who is rather inexperienced and more of a generalist, my one piece of advice: find an expert to do it for you. That's it. Seriously, it's just something like a Pandora's box that I couldn't imagine myself going into. So, I think it's really helped to take that time and working together in conjunction, which has allowed me to work on the product development side of things, the strictly engineering part, rather than the documenting and all the nitpicky stuff that goes into patenting.
I think the other interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to segue and say I'd love to hear how Keith has approached it from the software side of things too. But yeah, Ashley, feel free.
Yeah, I'll jump in there real quick. I think the other interesting thing I think Keith had this a little bit from his office action, some of the file history for his patents, but you all kind of did a lot of, either, you did it yourself or you sourced it out, but some searching. And I think you kind of hit on that, Brendan, too, the fact that you kind of knew, or you had searches and you knew kind of how to, or we kind of worked to figure out what was the piece that was above and beyond the art. And same with Teresa, you had a really good idea about what competitors were out there. And then I think I can't remember if we did a little bit of searching or not, but just, knowing kind of what's out there and what sets you apart, not only from a commercial perspective, right, but what sets you apart from like a device perspective. Like, what is that? What is the value that you're providing to a customer, and how can you protect what that value is with a patent? And it's trying to find that intersection, which isn't always easy, but doing some of the searching, said that you all did, I think was really pivotal in that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would second everything that Teresa and Brendan said. First of all, definitely professional help as early in the process as possible. There's I'm gonna just a quick little personal note, and then there's a point to this. I wrote a screenplay, a feature length screenplay, right after our first son was born. So he was sleeping, and I had finished my grading, and just for to blow off a little statement. So, as a humanities major, I know that big long books get written a little bit at a time. And I think what I wish I would have done with the patent stuff is every time I had an idea to write it down. I wrote a lot of stuff down, but it was almost like, the cliche of the person bringing the shoebox of all the receipts and all that other stuff to their accountant. Ashley's kind of laughing. There was a lot of that, right, when we did our initial filing, and actually a lot of it when we pivoted with Aurora and Ashley and her team too. But just to write everything down as early as possible and as often as possible.
No, it's awesome. And to that point, I think that's hugely critical, is that, kind of mirrors that development progression too, right? I mean, it's not necessarily that you're developing all those things, but it's ideas that you had. I think the only, leery note I can put in there that, and you probably all already know this, but the whole, it used to be enough to write down your ideas and like mail them to yourself or postmark them, right, to get that invention date. But now you have to put them on file. So if it's an idea that's valuable to your company and you foresee it being in your product pipeline or being in the pipeline for your competitors to get around you, that's one of those ones that you really do want to get on file early. And so, writing down everything. I mean, basically creating your own little invention disclosure file, right?
And the other, the nice side effect of that too is like that whole, gulf knowledge concept where the more innately you begin to understand something, the harder it gets for you to speak discreetly about it. And so, you probably might actually end up with a better patent if you start personally writing about it sooner as you're understanding its discrete components because eventually you just start. It's breathing, it's walking. You're not really thinking about it. But as Brendan said, you gotta take that quote unquote simple concept and turn it into 30 pages of detailed specification. And so you really have to be able to explain it inside out, upside down.
I'd like to go back and talk a little more about what you were saying about research, like doing your own research before you write your patent, about like what else is in the field, like what are prior arts that are in the field. And I found that really helpful when we were trying to determine like what were the key features of our innovation over what's in the field. Like my product is very different from like Brendan's, where it's fairly new and he has very few competitors. A water filter, we've been around for quite a long time. And so there's a lot of water filter patents out there. And so it took a lot of pouring through dozens of like other existing
no pun intended.
Pouring and finding like the specific things that ours were doing that these other ones weren't doing, and that helped me like hone in on what to say in the patent, like what are the features that I wanted to acknowledge, and like we did put in like a section about specific advantages ours has or disadvantages that our competitors have that my invention was addressing. And I think that is a useful thing to have in patent when it comes to the examiner.
Right. And for pitching, honestly, I feel like pitching, all those things about, what makes you different, what makes you think that you're going to solve this problem, or, what sets you apart is, that all that kind of weaves together. I mean, there is definitely consumer aspects, non-technical problems that you're solving, and there's technical problems that you're solving. But ideally, a successful product that, that you want to protect has both of those aspects, right? The non-technical being consumer problems and the technical ones being the ones that in theory lead to the non-technical, that the solutions for the non-technical ones, and you protect the solutions to the technical problems.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that point too, Teresa and Ashley, because when I've been meeting with investors, the question comes up, well, what is protectable? And it's one thing to have, the full documentation from the legal aspect, from the paralegals, the patent attorneys, the examiners who really understand the breadth of the technical side of things, but being able to actually simplify 30 pages into 3 sentences in of its own can be a challenge, which is why I would also add on and advise that when communicating what is unique, being able to really hone in on the storytelling component and convey the key points in a succinct manner is also very important to also get additional funding, which can drive more innovation and protection, of course.
It is so an art to learning how to speak about your product to someone who knows nothing about it.
It is very much an art.
Feel free to answer both of these, either of these, however you see fit. What's the biggest surprise you've encountered, as you move into market or get closer to market, and or the most surprising feedback you've received?
Ooh, that could be interesting. I feel like the most surprising inventor story is Brendan's.
Sure. Because I've been in market for a little bit, I've had some time to actually hear some of this feedback from people. On so between being surprised and I think rewarding are the 2 parts of it. The most rewarding has been hearing people who are using the Zero for months, right? They've been using the same starter pack. I mean, from the initial get-go, my intention was to create a solution that addresses a behavioral addiction by solving that oral fixation craving and also offset waste issues, especially with this disposable vapes being tossed all the time. Mm-hmm. To hear someone say, look, I've been using my same Captain Zero with new cap packs for months and I haven't relapsed once has been so incredibly rewarding and surprising. It's funny how there are still so many customers out there who think that this is a vape when our listing explicitly says, and we have our packaging listed everywhere. It says 0 smoke, 0 nicotine, 0 charge. We're like, look, it's just pressurized flavored air. I mean, we still get comments where people are like, oh, this doesn't have smoke or it doesn't have nicotine. This is terrible. I'm like, did you know what you were buying?
Did you read the package?
Seriously, I'm like all over the page.
You're like, thank you for the marketing. You are correct.
It still surprises me, yes. But if anything, it teaches me I got to do better, make it even more simpler to understand.
0.
I can go. So yeah, we've been out on the market for a while now as well. So what we did, I think it's clever. I didn't come up with it, so I can say that, I think. Our marketing director at the time said, hey, if we're trying to do like a target B2B into higher ed. Okay, cool. So we're not going to have students pay for it directly. It'll be a cost that's borne by the universities, the colleges. But we need to get some proof, right? We're not going to, knock on 10 university doors and get 10 customers. So let's do some B2C and get some proof that way. We did a paid beta essentially. So, that was super helpful for us. Heard, all kinds of feedback, which is always good, right? You're hearing feedback, that's a good thing. That then led to being able to do through a couple of network connections, to being able to do a pilot with a major league sports team.
Really?
Oh, that's a great angle.
So yeah, so we hadn't really thought about this, but again through our connections. I can't I can't say a whole lot real specifics, but the cool thing was, here we are thinking higher ed, and we're kind of approached, hey, could we use Real English, we're going to be running our summer ESL program for players who are, needing some ESL classes. Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So from our perspective, B2C, someone gets on the web app and they can interact with it anytime they want. And that's kind of the teacher, that's self-directed, autonomous learning. With the pilot, what we were able to learn was instructors can use the product synchronously, right, in the class, asynchronously assign things, and as basically as the driver of the curriculum. And so this pilot was 16 weeks long. We have 16 lessons in a level. And so it was perfect, a few times a week. And we got all this great feedback from the players themselves. And so that was great. The feedback I loved the most, though, was one of the instructors who we know said, I've been doing this for 6 years as my summer gig. He happens to be a professor. I've been doing this for 6 years as my summer gig. And this year, these players seem, not always the same players, obviously it changes, but this year, these players seem a lot more engaged. They're interested in the class. They're not staring down at their phones or staring off into space. They don't seem annoyed by what we're doing. And we were just like, yes, that's it. That's awesome. And so it kind of taught us that, all right, well, we're thinking higher ed. We're, in the back of our minds had workforce development and innovation on our brains as well, future work kind of thing. But that was kind of a revelation to us. Like, okay, there are other learning scenarios that this could be applied to. So yeah, that was fun.
Well, that's cool. What a neat opportunity too.
For me, I think the surprise was how much iteration we were going to do as a company. And as an engineer, it really should not have been surprising to me, because iteration is just like, it's a thing you do in design. And I have 20 years of iteration or design behind me. And so I should have known better, but I was still just blindsided by how many times we've reinvented ourselves over the last year. I mean, from the design of our parts, when we wrote our provisional patent, it was 3 pieces. And when we took that to people for our first beta trial, it failed miserably. Every single person hated it. So it became 2 pieces when we kicked off our production 12. And then to our manufacturing process. I mean, we originally had the hubris that we would buy an injection molder and actually make our own housings, and then we would pot our own membranes. And then in the journey of understanding what that is, we realized it was completely out of our scope, and that is a whole entire industry, each of them on their own, and should be left to the professionals. And then our customer marketing channels. I mean, at the beginning, we were traditional retail, obviously, the hardware store down the street. And NGOs, of course, because they buy them already. And in talking to people, we realized there's so many more options and more appropriate for the markets we're looking into, and cooperatives and last mile distributors. And so we just that's been my surprise. How many times I've just reinvented our company in the last year. But I'm hoping, because we are a month away from getting into the market and actually solidifying. And so I'm hoping that will calm down, and maybe we've hit most of our major pivots, at least the major ones. And it'll just be kind of calmer going forward.
As long as the design, is largely frozen, would be nice.
Yeah. Until product expansion and we create new things.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Product expansion. Yeah. I love it. We have the kind of not quite market, but almost market, the kind of early market, and kind of the little bit later market. The whole, ran the gamut. Yeah.
Okay, so what would you say, over the course of your journey, this journey, this product, this invention, what's the smartest thing you've done? What's the dumbest thing you've done? And what did you learn from both?
I feel like this is some truth serum time.
for me, what pops into my head is just what I was saying before about our membrane potting. Like just the idea that we could have done every part of our process in-house, and that we were just looking back on it, like just shocking that if we had gone that way, like how hard our life would be right now. But we just didn't know what we were doing. Like we just didn't know what it seemed like such a simple concept of like how to create a filter cartridge. And it actually took a new tech pitch. We were discussing, like we were talking about our technology, and someone in the audience asked a question about the potting process. And so we met with him afterwards and had a meeting, and that led to like our journey to understanding like the full engineering behind it. Ended up talking to the guy in Korea who invented this technology.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And like made the whole circle, and then decided just to outsource it.
I think that's kind of the journey of startups though too, is realizing what you're good at, and maybe like what you could be good at but don't have time to be good at, and what you're not good at, and then deciding how you're going to focus your energies, right? Because you know any dedicated person given enough time could probably be good at almost anything, right? But the reality is the startup world has you pulled in 16 million different directions, and so you kind of got to choose what you're going to be good at and let other people handle the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we had to have that discussion internally. We were like, what kind of company are we building? Are we building a manufacturing company? Are we building a membrane potting company? No, we're building a filter selling company. And so we just like cut everything else away, and we're like, this is what we're gonna do. Yeah, but yeah, making that decision and like making us really think about what we wanted our company to be, because it can't be everything.
Right. That's cool.
So that was kind of the smartest and the dumbest all packaged up in one.
Yes. Yeah. It was a long
learning
journey.
when to pivot, knowing when to pivot.
Idea and ended with a smart decision.
I feel like that's that. I feel like the intro to this podcast could be that knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them. That song. I won't sing it and scare you all.
See if we can get the rights to that.
Yeah.
Don't want to get those copyright strikes.
An IP company that's ripping off copyright. Not cool.
Sure, I could probably share some sentiments, which I do agree with much of what was said. I mean, I think one of the smartest things I've been able to do throughout my career thus far at Capnos has been to seek outward help. It's because I've come into this space with only a limited amount of experience, being able to reach out to mentors with years and years of practice expertise, with tried and true technical knowledge. From learning from their failures, I've been able to make much better decisions and look at situations much more critically from a more logistical point of view, but also objectively. And I've been able to kind of improve myself as a person throughout that. And I think that by continuing to see myself as a sponge to soak up advice and to soak up knowledge, I've been able to just keep growing and learning and adapting as we continue to face new challenges. That said, one of the dumbest things I think I could be doing is not being able to focus primarily on just one thing. Granted, I understand too, I mean, as a founder and as, right now I'm like the primary full-time member, I'm balancing a lot of everything. So more than anything, I want to expand my team and to bring on my business partner, Alec, full-time. I want to find our next marketing hire. I want to expand and be able to delegate more, because when my one goal is fundraising at this point, it gets very difficult to successfully do that when I have to manage operations, customer success, all these other metrics, and then feel as if I'm not making a tremendous amount of growth on the one thing that I want to do well on. So I'm definitely trying my best. And, as with this whole journey, it's like a marathon with many sprints in between. It's also good to take sprints too.
What I think is just I think that so captures, I think, so many small companies is that this, and we've experienced this here too, even just you have these periods of growth, and there's stretch times where you're like, do I have enough to hire somebody? Do I just bite it off knowing and hoping that it's going to be there, that the sales are going to be there, the venture capital, whatever's going to be there, because I can't grow if I don't hire somebody, because, you're only one person. There's only 24 hours in a day, no matter how much we wish there were more or wish there were less. So it's that weird chasm that happens, I think, for a lot of companies of like, I don't have quite enough work for a full-time person. Or I don't have quite enough income for a full-time person, but I need to hire a full-time person because I can't keep going at the trajectory I am and continue to grow without that step. So I think it's a really interesting problem that a lot of companies face, and how they navigate that, I think varies wildly, but it's hard.
And you're absolutely right about that, the necessity to focus, but there is value in the pain for sure, because every hire that you make at this early stage is so critical. So it's a huge hire, and unless you have some empathy for what that person's going to do and some understanding of what they need to do, how can you possibly vet someone who's going to do it well, if you don't have at least some exposure? So yeah, it definitely pulls away from what you should be doing, but it sets you up better for scaling.
You bet. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So smartest thing. Well, I mean, from it's all perspective, right? But from my perspective, I mean, I would say, just jumping in, pulling the startup together and launching. For me, that was the smartest thing I could have done on a number of different levels, personally and professionally, career-wise. Personally, because I know I would have regretted years down the line had I not tried.
Mm-hmm.
We were explaining this when we were telling our 3 boys, okay, here's what he's gonna do. They were down in the, in our previous home in the basement. We put a little office together. Here's the headquarters, and I'm explaining. I said, well, if I don't try, there's no chance of success, right? Kind of that.
Mm-hmm.
And our then 7-year-old said, I have the quote sitting right here. It's like a genius quote. He said, well, never try, never fail, never succeed. And I was like blown away, like it almost
Encapsulates it.
I quick wrote it down. But seriously, for me, that was like, that captured it. So smartest thing. I mean, as entrepreneurs, I don't know that we do a lot of dumb things. But we do make mistakes. So I think my biggest one was I think and this is like advice to my former self or to other entrepreneurs is get in front of customers as quickly and as often as possible. Well, we don't have a product yet. Who cares? Do you have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil? There are a ton of different ways to, or do you have like just a blank monitor where someone can kind of just show you what they might do, right? Or not even that. Let's just kind of cardboard it out. That kind of stuff would have really, really helped us further on down the line. It's just we did it, but it was a little more painful. So I think would have liked to have gotten in front of customers a whole lot sooner. But anyway, what are you going to do?
Just be sure to get your provisional on file before saying too much. And this is an opportunity for a shameless plug around our On Sale Bar podcast and the Knowing When to Shush and When to Share blog post. Last one. So it's just if there's any major updates, news, exciting upcoming things.
Your shameless plug time.
Things that you'd like to share with our audience, and then where folks can go and learn more information about you, your company's products.
For us, everything this month is all about our launch. So we're about 1 month away from entering the market. So everything is just very exciting. Our production injection mold tooling is finished and bringing our first parts from the factory. We're getting our certification from the lab for bacterial removal this month. And everything's coming together. Our final product photos are all very excited. My first trip to Guatemala. So aurafilter.com, coming soon in April 2022.
Woohoo!
Wonderful. At Capnos, our mission is to prevent lung diseases and save lives. We're here to create a future where we can help solve one of the deadliest addictions by addressing the behavioral component where no one else is. And we're already helping thousands of people successfully quit doing so. So I'm just really excited for everything that's coming up. We're in the process of raising. So if you'd like to get involved with that regard, feel free to reach out. We're also looking to hire, and we're also looking to build our community and find others who may resonate with our mission and what we're doing to work with us. So you can find us on our website, just at mycapnos.com, or anywhere on our social medias, which is just at mycapnos. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So Real Lingua is continuing to iterate on our in-market products. So that's probably the biggest update. We're looking forward. We're very excited about the conversational AI piece. We're looking forward to that, and getting more of our ducks in a row along those lines. So that's a bit of an update. To learn more, it's reallingua.com, REALLINGUA.com. So thanks.
That's awesome. We're so happy for and proud of all of you for what that's worth. When we pick the winners for the for the Rise Award, it's a very like emotional, painstaking process, and we get a lot of really great applicants, but you're all doing really very important missions. And it's great to see how much success you've had in such a short amount of time, and just know that we're
during a hard time,
and during a very very hard time, you're playing on hard mode, for sure. So just know we're some of your biggest fans, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, we love it. And if we can help in any other way, let us know.
Absolutely.
I'll go down to Guatemala for you, Teresa, too, if you need me to.
It's beautiful down there.
I'll pay to test Real Lingua, see if I can get my Spanish up to snuff, and then go put it to practice.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. That's it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do as soon as this podcast is over. I have to get ready for my trip in 3 weeks.
And if I see anybody vaping,
slap it out of their hand.
just slap one.
Yeah, actually, I will challenge that. We actually try not to tell people what to do. Like we never want to say you shouldn't quit. I mean, we're just trying to help people who are looking to quit.
Right.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a really great point. Yeah.
Education does play a big part in really changing the culture and understanding around it.
That's true. Yeah. People, I think you have to, come to it on your own terms.
Yeah. Beating any addiction has to be a choice, a personal choice, right? Somebody can't choose that for you.
Exactly. Thank you for understanding.
No, I love that you're aware of that and share that too, because it's So.
And it's a big enough market in itself. There's a lot of people wanting to quit.
Mm-hmm.
You bet.
Well, I think feeling let down too by the fact. I would personally, like, if I had been a smoker and then changed to vaping because I thought that was going to be the solution, only to find out it's probably just as bad as what I was doing. I think I'd be really kind of like mad and annoyed by that, almost like misinformation. It was the information they had at the time. So it's not like anybody was like intentionally misdirecting, but to be like, here's a solution. Oh, wait, turns out that solution is just as bad. So it's cool that there's an even better solution that's truly a solution. So.
Well, thanks everybody so very much. It was great getting to kind of have a little reunion with everybody.
Certainly. Thanks again for your time. It was nice meeting both of you, Teresa and Keith, as well. And it's a joy to be in this room together, though virtual.
The virtual room.
Same here. Same here.
Absolutely, me too.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Take care.
Great to see you. Bye now.
Bye.
As mentioned in the intro, we're using this episode to launch the 2022 Rise Award. For For the selected applicant, we'll work closely with you and your team of inventors to provide one of the following: either a free provisional U.S. patent application or $5,000 towards a non-provisional U.S. patent application. The only requirement is that you must have an impactful innovation that you want to share with the world. We welcome applicants from all subject matter areas and zip codes. Eligible applications will be reviewed by an internal panel based on equal weighting of technology maturity, market relevance, economic impact, and societal impact. We're going to begin taking applications today. To learn more about this award and apply, please visit riseupwithaurora.com. We'll also have a link in the show notes. Good luck, and we can't wait to see your application. All right, that's all for today, folks. Thanks for listening, and remember to check us out at aurorapatents.com for more great podcasts, blogs, and videos covering all things patent strategy. And if you're an agent or attorney and would like to be part of the discussion, or an inventor with a topic you'd like to hear discussed, email us at podcast@aurorapatents.com. Do remember that this podcast does not constitute legal advice, and until next time, keep calm and patent on.